Bulasia and welcome to today's JUSTPEACE Talanoa BURE at COVID-19. During and post COVID-19 today at rebuilding and recovery phase in communities in Fiji arising from the challenges of pandemic, there are rising number of crises as an impact. Listening to these stories, there are over 1,000 losses of employment. There is the existing impacts of climate change and issues of environment change, further challenges, impacts to human security. Join us with our guests for today's Talanoa. And here with us are Meresiana Sinu, the representative of Saqani District to the Provincial Council, the Cakaudrove, and Mr. Ananayasa Tuinangalau Tumuri, Turaga Koro Raranibulubulu, and the maternity kina Labasa Macuata province. And with us is Mr. Paulo Baleinakorodawa, the program director of Transcend Oceania, who will be moderating this Talanoa session.
Nisambulo Vinaka, and welcome to Transcend Oceania's JUSTPEACE Talanoa BURE at COVID-19 on building JUSTPEACE communities in changing climate and environment. Welcome Tui, and welcome Meresiana to this episode. I also like to welcome all of you viewers who are listening in and viewing this episode from Fiji and all around the world. Perhaps if we could begin this Talanoa session with you saying a little bit more about yourselves, where you come from, what organization, community or institution you represent to this Talanoa, and what's your role in that community or institution.
Thank you. My name is Meresiana Sinu. I come from the village of Saqani in the Cakaudrove. I'm representing the maternity kinani marama of Saqani in the Cakaudrove.
Thank you, Meresiana. Can we hear from you, Tui?
My name is Ananayasa Tui Tumuri, and I come from the village of Raranibulubulu in the district of Labasa, in the friendly north, of course. And I'm just a village headman, Koro, and I like representing the issues that are there in the communities. Yes, it's just I represent my community and also the district of Labasa and also the province of Macuata.
Thank you, Tui. As you have alluded to just earlier on, you want to bring the issues that you from the communities that you both represent into this Talanoa session. So maybe perhaps we could move the conversation, the Talanoa, forward in you talking about what are some of those priority issues for you as the representative of the maternity kina marama of Saqani, and for you, Tui, as the Koro, the village headman, and the other roles that you play within your community and district. Meresiana, please.
Naka, my priority issue is economic and security. As I'm speaking on the behalf of the women in district, living far right at Undu Point in the Natewa Bay, acting as a mother in a family, we do lots of tasks to make great help in helping and earning our living in our families. Example, weaving mats, making VCO, going to the sea fetching for sasalu. But at the time we are going through like COVID-19 and the past cyclone, it affects us a lot. For some of our friends lost their jobs, that causes not selling our craft. That's caused the lower selling of our crafts at villages, like not a lot of money cycling through in our areas.
So you are not able to sell all the crops that you've made because people are without jobs.
Yeah.
Thank you. Tui, what's your priority issue?
As Koro, we have a number of issues that we given a lot of responsibilities by the government, and most of the times it's not an easy job. But we voice out all the issues that we have, not only in the Fijian community and the Tauke community, but also outside of the Tauke community. And as we had one of my colleague got passed away in the COVID-19 seasons, and leaving his family and 4 children behind. So we used that responsibilities that the government give us. We also use that as a door so that we can voice out. We have a lot of doors that we can voice out the issues that we have there. And especially right now, the main issue is the source of income for the community as a whole in the district of Labasa and also the province of Macuata. And one of the restrictions that came was that they stopped the resources that we get from the sea. It's many of the families, they rely on this, not only in the community of where I come from, but the whole of the district from Labasa, and also those who live on the riversides and the seasides of Macuata, and the small islands that live behind, just close to the main island. And they also they live on this for their livelihood. And the restrictions made us to look for alternatives so that we could have an enjoyable life in our families. And due to the COVID-19 restrictions, one of the alternatives was people went to towns to look for jobs. And but when the COVID-19 came, well, there was no more employment, so we are back to our villages, and we don't have any source, a good source of income. And also the school has been started, so we find it difficult. They find it difficult. So I'm just here to voice out.
Okay, so there's a number of issues that you are talking about. I hear a lot about people struggling for sources of livelihood at the moment. You're looking for alternative sources of livelihood, and that's because of the current situation and also the challenges brought in by COVID-19. We will pick up on these issues again in the next segment, and we will take a break now. You are watching Transcend Oceania's JUSTPEACE Talanoa at COVID-19 on building just peace communities in changing climate and environment. Join us in the next segment. Welcome to this second segment of this episode, where I'm talking to Tui and Meresiana, 2 leaders from the North, talking about the issues. So in the previous segment, you've started to talk about some of the priority issues that you face as a community and as a women's organization in Saqani. If we can move the conversation forward for you to talk about what are the key challenges and the conflicts surrounding the issues that you've talked about previously in the previous segment. Maybe we can begin with Meresiana.
Naka, I recommend and promote make a available market. Also includes needs women in decision making, and also helps us to sell our crafts and homemade crafts so that can earn money.
Thank you, Meresiana. Tui?
Well, the some key challenges that we face right now, as I've mentioned before, the difficulties in running the families and putting food on the tables. And the school has been started, so we facing the difficulties of the incomes that are coming in to buy foods, and like I said, the alternative ways of living that we had is also gone in the COVID-19 restrictions. And now even most of our members that were working out there in towns, some in Levu, in Nandi, they've all come back to the village. So there are a bunch of people now in the village, and we really need these things to be open, if it's open, because others are closed, other alternatives are closed, and the only option is to allow us to give us the chance to get a living from out in the sea. And it is there's a lot of it now. From the day that we started the restrictions till now, that's the only way we can make a living, because there's a lot of it right now.
Okay, so you talked about the one of the key challenges is surrounding children and education, and as we know, the school term started this last Monday. I am wondering how many children you have in your community that go to primary and to secondary. How do they go to school, and what about their lunches? What about the school needs? How is that met at this time?
Thank you, Paulo. Like unlike the school children before, they could go to school with their original lunch, traditional lunch, cassava, and they could go with some. But children nowadays, they need to take sausages, they need to take chickens to school and some of the days. And it's difficult to send the children. They don't want to go to school if they don't have good lunch. As that's about the children. They're going to schools, and that's their needs, and we need to fulfill their needs too, as an enjoyable.
And you talked about the members of the community who were employed in towns and cities, now moving back into the communities because of COVID-19. How are they able to send their children back to school now?
It's a new start for them. They come and they just try to stay with us, and they look for opportunities. Like in Labasa areas, we used to cut cane. They used to cut cane before to earn a living, but now there are machines that are cutting cane now.
So that's taken away the job from people who used to manually cut the sugar canes, and therefore affecting their ability to send their children to school. Meresiana, you talked about, earlier on, you talked about the lack of ability for women or access to markets now because of COVID-19. Are there other challenges that women in Saqani face at the moment?
Naka, in our community, we are well known in making handicrafts like weaving and making a VCO, and our place is so far from our town, and it gives us a lot of challenge of taking our crafts to town to be sold, and also we also in need of having trained from helpers, like making a woman changing their mindset so that they can give a hand to men's in the family to help them in earning money. So, and I'm pleading now if there can be a lot of training be done in our areas.
Okay, so I'm really interested. There's two connecting issues that you have. One is the access to the markets, because you produce beautiful crops and virgin coconut oil, VCO, and all those kind of stuff. You're beginning to talk about a new challenge that you face because of the distance that you have from Saqani to the markets. And I understand the markets are in Savu and Labasa. How difficult is that to you to get to Savu or to get to Labasa from Saqani?
For ourselves in the villages, our transport is bus, and we got a lot of stuff, we can't loading them all in the bus to take them to town and sell them.
And because there's limited space in the bus, so you can't take all those. Let's pick up on these very interesting issues that you've raised in the next segment. We will take a break now. And you were watching Transcend Oceania's JUSTPEACE Talanoa at COVID-19 on building JUSTPEACE communities in changing climate and environment. Join us in the next segment. Welcome back to this last and final segment of this episode. Meresiana and Tui, as we move the conversation forward, the Talanoa forward to the end of this episode, this is a good time for you to talk about what recommendations you have. What are your suggestions to responding to the key priorities that you have in your different communities? And can we start with Tui, please? What are some of those recommendations that you have?
Okay, my recommendation to the communities these difficult times, we must stay calm, and the only alternative is we can use our natural resources. We do a lot of planting. Our backyards, we are being given the seeds by some NGOs, ADRA, and also the government, the Ministry of Agriculture is also giving out seeds for backyard gardening, just to cater our families and meet with the needs of our families. It saves times for our women just to collect cabbages and other vegetables, the veggies just from the backyard. Let's not panic and keep trying hard and wait for the other organizations or the government to open up. And we are still, now the talks are in process, and we must keep on working using the natural resources, doing planting.
Thank you, Tui. Meresiana, what are the recommendations for you? What are your suggestions to respond to the issues that women face in your tikina of Saqani?
Dengan kerkerbe kimnina vitokani ni barong tiko na itukutuku ni me baleti ke mami na marama na tikina of Saqani the Cakaudrove kerani ni bebu ke mai ena kena ba okay na kena kauna nei mami voli se makete takina nei mami voli ena bai vanua merendrawati mai kena na Raranibulubulu ena lom ni mata vale kerkerenga ena vitambana bertona fandes bertona rani reida mai na ni to buke na marama ena kauna nei to voli kabatalanga kina kitusana budina dona ngauna me bata ka me dona kador dona Saqani Day ina tukina kituna bitikina nei toi voli mengerani volitaki merani na volitaki batikina kena na sangataki na nonra na wakokota kitingana marama mera takapatingana non raivoli mera ndrawatikinambuna.
Vinaka Meresiana. And so to wrap up this episode, I'm sure you have one last thing that you want to say, and maybe that's the key message or the most important thing that you want to say to those who are viewing this program and this episode. So what's that last message that you want to tell the viewers listening in?
I would like to ask the responsible organizations or the government if they could lift this ban for now, as we are going through hard times in the COVID-19 restrictions. It's a plea to the government and other relative organizations to help in to lift this ban, just to cover this time. And it would help, it would really help most of the people, not only of my community, but all those people who living beside the sea and all the small islands. They're really finding it difficult, and this is the best time. If we could just lift this burden for now to help them in the start of this school season, and also their families. Yeah.
Nakati, Meresiana, is there any last thing that you want to say to those who are listening in to this program?
Nang ker-ker nga bikimni na barong tingmai, kimami tuba barau na marama na tingina sangani, ke soera ngante tue na via bolia na iboli me bataka na takatani linga, merawa kina ni na ukei talchunga kino na marama na tingina sangani na Vasulevu.
Thank you, Meresiana. That brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you very much, Tui and Meresiana, for your willingness to be part of this Talanoa and your contribution to Transcend Oceania's JUSTPEACE Talanoa at COVID-19. And thank you very much, viewers, for joining us in this program.
As we conclude our JUSTPEACE Talanoa at COVID-19, we are reminded that to enable people living just peace and nonviolence in Oceania, we need to create more awareness about climate change, inclusive consultative decisions within the limited resources we have, and our timely responses to human security priorities, protection and recovery moving on, and in the traumatic cycle of COVID-19, and also the effects of TC Herald. I am Vasulevu, the Executive Director, Transcend Oceania.